Today we're going to be fixing screen burn in a black and white WonderSwan. I got this for the wife for Christmas or birthday.
Thank you.
And yeah, really bad screen burn. So it's just a case of replacing the polarizing lens. This is for an iPad Mini 4, but the principle is pretty much the same. Let's take a look at the screen burn now. So the screen burn, you can't really tell through a camera because of, I guess, how cameras sort of work, but this is kind of what it looks like to us, this here. So you can see it's quite faded and it's hard to play, so we're going to look at replacing the polarizing lens on here. So to do this, things you need, Torx screwdriver set. Well, you only need the T7, so if you have that, great. Polarizing lens, maybe a knife or so to pry it off, guitar pick, something like that. Isopropyl alcohol for cleaning up residue. Same with these. Those heads are optional, you don't need those. Tape measure if you want to measure it out perfectly, otherwise you can wing it with some scissors. So the first thing, remove the battery and also remove the game. I'm sure you know how to do that. Next, a 6 count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 T7 Torx screws. Undo all of those and set the screws to the side. Once the screws are removed, just get a guitar pick, go around the outside, it should come free. And there we go. Main board of the WonderSwan. Next thing we want to do is disconnect the LCD screen from the main board, and that's this little ribbon cable right here. So we just need to lift these two plastic black tabs that way. So just use something like a guitar pick or a card and just push them up. So as you can see right there, they come up about 1 millimeter, and that will allow you to disconnect the ribbon cable by just pushing it that way. Just like that. So we just move this out of the way, then we can pull the board upwards. So pulling the board up, it'll just get hung up on all these little grey dots here, that's how it sort of presses down, but there's no more screws. Just get a guitar pick and just lever it up under each area where the grey dot is. You can see it will separate, and then you can just pull the board up. When pulling the board up, you might see your power button disappear to the side and the buttons underneath might lose their spots, but just put them back in. So there you can see what I mean there. It just sticks to it, but really you can just remove the board and just push these back into place. That way nothing gets lost or moved out of place. So if you're curious, that's what the main board looks like on both sides there. Pretty cool. But the next thing of interest is getting this screen out here. So the best way here is just to get like a guitar pick or a corner of a credit card or something like that and just push it up in this little gap here. You'll start to hear the glue sort of detach on these outside edges, and it will start slowly coming up and evenly. The last thing we want to do is get a solid object like a bit of metal. It might actually crack the screen, so just go carefully with this and it just should slowly start prying up. So now the screen's out, we can leave it as one unit. We don't need to disconnect any of these ribbon cables or anything. Before we do that, we're just going to clean this inside area here with some rubbing alcohol. We don't really want to be looking through smears when we play, so that's quite important. So we're going to clean that. The sticky edge here, just leave that because we want to stick our new polarizing lens where that is. So just clean the screen. And next we're going to start removing the old polarizing lens, and that is the process of carefully removing it from the screen itself. So it's just stuck on. You just need to get a small knife or something like that, just separate the polarizing lens and the screen and slowly peel it off. You can see the old one here had these slight little cracks here as it's been sun damaged. So it just happens naturally, but yeah, that's what we're doing today to replace this. So you want to work this very carefully, just take your time, go all the way across, and once you get enough of it to grab with your fingers, you can slowly pull it off. If there's some residue, don't worry about that, we can clean that off with our rubbing alcohol. So now the metal razor did a lot of the work to sort of get in there. We'll just use something non-abrasive like our guitar pick to slowly push the screen off, and that way we won't risk scratching the screen in any way. So now it's off, we just want to clean up all this residue here. I recommend rubbing alcohol. The higher percent the better. We don't want it to interfere with the electronics, otherwise I'd say use Goo Gone, but for this, yeah, rubbing alcohol, some cotton swabs or cotton buds, just get off get all this residue off the screen now. So the old polarizing lens is all off now. You can see here's the main one here, and it's separated in two, so it's a little bit annoying, but both of these are off. It's all cleaned with isopropyl alcohol now. So now we're going to cut up our new one and replace it. So when preparing our polarized lens sheet, we want to make it green like this. See, if you rotate it, it's like a purple and kind of like a blue at a diagonal here. We want it green, so we want to make sure we're cutting this direction. And we're just going to measure the screen. We'll cut a slightly bit bigger because it's going to go in the socket where the screen sits, and just make it slightly bigger than the screen. So what I did, I measured this socket here. It's 6 centimeters across, so that's 60 millimeters. And on this side, I'm going to make it 46 millimeters, I believe. So I've measured 60 millimeters across this way, which is this dot here, and 46 millimeters from the bottom. So that dot, we're just going to cut this corner off this sheet here. Okay, so we're going to put the screen in now. We want to put our polarizing lens in this socket here, and just use the adhesive residue here to stick it down. You can see on the lens here, it has a little bit of plastic covering on both sides, so we need to remove that. So now is the time to wash your hands, make sure they're lint free. Peel both sides of the polarizing lens and press it into the socket here. So polarizing lens in, it's just stuck down on the residual stick here. It doesn't really matter which way it goes now we've cut it out. You know, if you flip it or, you know, put it in the other orientation, it doesn't matter now. It's rectangular because you can't mess it up. It looks green either way, so good to go. So we're just going to place the screen in now and press it up against here. So now this is stuck on here. It will just stick statically to the screen now. So we don't need to glue it down to the screen or anything like that. And if this ever dies in the future from extended UV exposure to the sun or anything like that, we can just, you know, flip it out really easy. We don't need to get the razor blade in there anymore. So yeah, we're good to go on that front. So screen's in, we're just going to put the board back in. Assemble is the reverse of disassembly. Just make sure all the buttons are pressed in nicely before we put the board down and everything's in place. Then we're going to put it back together and screw it down. So here's the fruits of our efforts here. It actually looks pretty good, to be honest. A lot better. I bought this second hand. I guess someone just left it in the sun, you know, things happen, but it looks good. So this process you can use for Game Boys, iPads, iPhones, you know, they all use polarizing lenses and things to do light tricks. So I hope this video helped you, and all the parts to do this are in the description below, so check that out.